It's ride day. All right, so I am super pumped about this weekend. I'm riding all weekend, Virginia today, tomorrow with some buddies in Pennsylvania, which I'll get to later on. That's gonna be epic. And I'll still do the trail discovery videos for these trails, but I thought I'd try something different, and that is just kind of document the whole weekend, the ride, all that kind of stuff, and see how it goes. So let me know as you watch this in the comments if you like this concept or not, or nobody will watch it, and I guess I'll know my answer. So with that, let's go ahead and hit the trail and we'll talk about this place. All right, so like I mentioned, we're doing things a little different. I'm actually gonna jump back and forth between the narrative and then me actually talking in the videos. So we're gonna go ahead and head down the trail here. And one thing I gotta mention right off the bat, you see me taking off, it looks like I just got on the four-wheeler from that video. I actually spent an hour and a half on this trailhead trying to figure out why my ATV would not work. So I got it unloaded and then I started it up just fine, shot that scene, got on it to ride. I got 1 foot and the machine totally died. I mean, completely dead. I spent an hour and a half trying to get it started, and I'm on this trail alone. So I have no support from anybody, and my biggest concern at the time is, all right, I'm next to my vehicle. However, if I can't get this to work, I don't know how I'm gonna get it back up into the truck. So that was actually what quickly turned into my biggest fear. You saw another vehicle there as I was leaving. I might have been able to track those dudes down eventually to get some help, but in the meantime, I mean, there's really no way I was going to just push this right back up into the truck bed. Anyway, after spending a good hour and a half messing around with it, I mean, I'm checking all sorts of different stuff. I have 0 power, so I'm thinking the basics, you know, the ground's not connected, whatever, just basic stuff. I'm going through all the electrical components. I finally figured it out. And you would not believe what it was. So on the left side, well, on the Scrambler, on the left side, you've got your emergency shutoff. You know, you've got your run in the middle, and then you're off on your left, down on your right. It's pretty standard on most ATVs. The cable that goes from there to the actual ECU, so I'm actually pointing at it right there. That's ironic timing. That's awesome. That cable had popped out, so the bracket holding it in is broke, and all I had to do was push it back in, and it started. Now, granted, you know, I gotta actually replace the plastic cap, but in the meantime, pushing it back in fixed it. So after an hour and a half of tearing stuff apart, messing around and all sorts of stuff, all I had to do was push that back in. So I got to push back in. So I finally made it on the trail, and as I mentioned, I'm riding alone, and this is the Moto Cove in Virginia. Really fun trail. As you can see, it's super rocky, and again, I still haven't figured out, the camera does not do it justice. If you know how to actually somehow show hills properly, let me know, because I'm still trying to figure that out. Like right here, it doesn't even look like I'm climbing a hill. It just almost looks like I'm crossing over some rocks, but I am actually going up right here. Now, I really wanted to try this trail out, and I'm glad I got out to it. It was a lot of fun. I ran into some issues, but it was definitely a fun trail. However, I don't think I would ever do this trail again alone, because there were many spots where I was kind of on that, you know, I could very easily tip here. If I don't take this just right, I'm going to roll, and then I'm going to be alone. So, you know, that kind of always plays a role when you're out riding. But this trail definitely was more difficult, and coming from the Midwest, not used to a whole lot of rock climbing. So that obviously adds to it as well, just that kind of steeper, rockier angle, right? So I mean, I can admit that rock climbing is definitely not my strong suit when it comes to riding, but still a blast. I personally would not do it again alone. So right here, for example, I'm actually not even going to take that, because I kind of ended up on a Jeep trail, which is one of my complaints about this trail is they claim it's well marked. It's not. I'm sorry. Fun trail, poorly marked. I didn't even know where I was most of the time, and that's not a big deal except for the fact that there's one-ways and Jeep trails, and that obviously makes it a little more concerning because I don't want to go the wrong way into a Jeep or another ATV for that matter. So anyway, that was definitely a downer, and again, but overall, it was a fun trail. There's like 30-something, I believe, miles of trail. I'll actually do a trail review on this, and when I do, I'll link it up over here, and that'll have all the actual details on the trail itself. But as far as this actual day, I think I was honestly partially already kind of cranky just from how long it took me to get my machine off. I mean, by the time I drove 3 hours to get there, an hour and a half plus to get my machine off and then, running. So I did hit this trail with already kind of a little bit of a bad attitude, but it's still, I got out there, definitely attitude improved once I got on the trail. It was a lot of fun. And the rockiness, if you're from the Midwest, the rockiness was definitely a fun experience. And here's another perfect example. You can't tell from looking at the camera per se, but this was a very steep decline and a lot of rocks. And again, not my strong suit, but man, it was a blast. And I love getting in those places that make you uncomfortable to ride, because I feel like in the end, it just makes you a better rider. Again, my complaint though being that I'm not overly experienced in steep, rocky inclines and declines. Going alone probably wasn't the best. All right, so we're going to go ahead. I'm going to speed through the rest of this super quick. Let's get back to the trailhead where I'll say a couple words, and then we're going to get on to the aoaa. I'm going there with some awesome people. It was a freaking blast. So let's go ahead and get to that. All right, so today was kind of a bust. I'm loaded up. I'm about to head out of here. I'm kind of in a bad mood, and it's not because the trails were bad. They're good trails out here, definitely good trails. But, I spent so much time just trying to get my machine up and running after a 2.5-hour drive. And then to get out there, and I was alone, so the trails are pretty technical, and then you kind of have that, well, I'm alone, I need to be more cautious, it just takes away from some of the enjoyment. Being alone already takes away from some of the enjoyment, so there's that. I wasn't even going to put any of this in a video. I was just going to start with tomorrow at this point, but I'm sure a lot of you have been in those type of situations and can feel my pain, so I thought I would share the struggle. Tomorrow, though, tomorrow is going to be a lot better, so let's just go ahead and skip to that. All right, so I'm out here at the Anthracite Outdoor Off-Road Area, and I'm just getting dressed out. I'm meeting a couple guys. I'm running late. They already hit the trail, so they're coming back for me. One of them owns this red truck right here. Maybe you follow him on Instagram. That might be a hint. But anyway, I'm going to meet up with them in a few minutes. It looks awesome out here so far. This place is going to be epic from what I can see so far, which is not a lot, but the trailhead is packed. So I'm hoping that's a good sign. I mean, there's a lot of people here. It seems like there's a lot going on. So I'm going to go ahead and get dressed out, meet up with them, and hit the trail. All right, so I met up with those guys who I will talk about as we get going on the trail here, but we're just going to zip down to the actual trail here. So this is us just leaving the trailhead and getting to the actual good trail itself. And I cannot say enough good things about this trail. All right, so here we are on the trail, and this was an absolute blast. As you can see, I mean, it's already starting off with a bang. So this guy right here that you see coming up the hill, this is the Mud Freak. And then in front of me now here is Muddy Microphone. So that's who I met up with. Great guys. Known them for a while on Instagram and this and that. We've just kind of, I guess, become friends over time. Look, he's just tearing through that ice. Look at that. It was like the right temperature where all the mud and water was frozen over, but not enough to where you couldn't push through a lot of it. So some of it we slid right over. Just kind of slid around, had fun. Other stuff, it broke through. It almost made it funner because it was like a surprise. You didn't know if you were going to crash through or if you were going to slide right over the top. And it just added to the fun. So a lot of times what would actually happen is the first guy would end up sliding over but cracking the ice. And then by the time the second or third guy got to it, he would just end up in the middle of it all because he would just fall through. As you can see, that's what happened right here. Just an awesome trail. Anyway, so this trail, again, I'll do a trail review on this. That'll be linked up above here. But I really can't say enough good things about this trail. One of the better trails I've ever been on, and tons of trails. The footage I'm showing here is only a portion of what they have to offer. So it is privately owned, which is, its own uniqueness if you're used to riding on public trails. So you do actually have to pay, and that really depends on what you're riding. You can ride ATVs, UTVs, side-by-sides. That's the same thing. I don't know why I said it twice. Motorcycles, Jeeps. I mean, all sorts of stuff on this trail. And it is just a blast. There's all sorts of different environments, so if you want the more basic stuff, it's there. Anyway, this isn't supposed to be a trail review, but as you can see, we're just going through some different trails, cracking through the ice. So this is really funny. I actually got stuck right here. Couldn't figure out what the deal was. I was in two-wheel drive, and I could not figure out it. I mean, honestly, guys, it took me like probably a good 30 seconds to realize what was going on and why I couldn't get through it. And then the Mud Freak just comes right by and plows right through. So yeah, lesson there. Make sure you know what the frick you're doing. And then as we continue on, just more of the trail. I mean, we had so much fun riding in these trails. They get narrow at portions, and then you're constantly doing those, those zigzag trails where you're going in and out. And then you had some more trails like this that are still a little more narrow, but, a little more laid back at the same time. Some of them intertwined with Jeep trails and other trails, so it just makes for an overall great experience. And I don't know if you've ever been riding in the Appalachian Mountains, but coming from the Midwest, it is a blast. I'm sure it's not the same as riding in the Rockies or anything like that, but there's definitely some beautiful views, and then it also adds to some awesome incline and declines as you're hitting those technical areas. So this is a perfect example of what I was talking about earlier, where you can almost see the ice cracking at times. We're having just a blast sliding around this lake, going back and forth, and then eventually, sure enough, I turn around to go back, and I end up falling right through the ice. So I think it's actually going to show it right here. So the mud freak comes in, and there I go, right there. So that I fall right in the ice, and then he's laughing at me, and he falls right through the ice. And then he spends, I don't know, probably a good 2 or 3 minutes trying to get out. I'm still stuck like 5 feet over from him. He finally gets out, and then I think I get out like 30 seconds after him. So the weather, I mean, it definitely, you know, if you don't like riding in the cold, this isn't for you, but it was just that awesome temperature of not fully frozen, but just frozen enough to change the aspect of the ride and really provide for some enjoyment. So these are the guys right here. In fact, I'm going to pause this for a second because this is really funny. So this is Bigfoot right here. You're looking at Bigfoot. They post this out here randomly, and the key is to find him out on the trails. And if you do, you take a picture with him, and then they give you a sticker when you get back. So kind of random, I know, but it makes it even funner because it adds a little bit of a hunt to the trails while you're out there. So I don't remember which one of these guys found it. Credit doesn't go to me. I think it might have been Muddy Microphone, but I'm not sure. All right, so that's all I got. Amazing weekend. Thanks goes out to those dudes for taking me out and being my trail guide. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up right here. All right, so that was a blast. Had a great time on those trails. Rode with some great guys. I mean, I'm super glad I was able to make that all work out. Just had a blast. Even got to talk to Dave, who runs the aoaa. In fact, when I get the trail discovery video done, I'll link that up over here. But now I want to get this machine at least somewhat clean before I store it to the night. And I still got over an hour drive from my current location just to get back to the hotel. So subscribe if you haven't already. And hope to see you on the trail.